I had a very interesting reading month for the month of October. I did not read a huge quantity of books, but I really enjoyed the quality of the books that I read. They were each a very high rating for me, which is super exciting because I ended off September definitely on more of a sour note, and I was trying my hardest not to get into a reading slump at the beginning of October because that's got to be like my absolute favorite time to read of the year. Is that a lie? Honestly, I always love reading, I'm not gonna lie, but it's my favorite time to read the horror slash thriller genre, which is what my autumn TBR is filled with. And I really did not want to lose momentum, so I actually started off the month of October with a graphic novel, and that is this collection of the Addams Family comics called The Addams Family and Evolution, and I loved this one so much. Definitely 5 stars. I had a blast reading it. So it is the comics. As you can see, they're very simple, not a lot of words, but then throughout as well, it also just describes how Charles Addams actually created the characters as well as the setting, and then later went on to create the TV series in the 60s and then eventually inspired the movie adaptations that are a lot more mainstream and popular today. Super duper interesting. If you are at all into the Addams Family, I highly recommend looking into the original comics. I personally have loved the Addams Family since being a little kid. I grew up on the live action movies, and those were one of my favorite things to watch around Halloween time, but I had no idea that it actually started from a comic. I knew it had been a show in the 60s, but I did not realize that it was actually a comic before that. So super duper interesting. There's so much to learn from this bind up, or I'm sure other bind ups of the Addams Family comics as well. Honestly, I can't recommend that one enough if you are into the Addams Family. It was just amazing. Next, I read Ghost Camera, which I went into thinking that it was just one novel about a character who finds a Polaroid camera, snaps a picture, and a ghost shows up on the developed photo. That's kind of what it was advertised as, and it turned out that was only the first story, which was the first 100 pages in this book, and then after that there was a bunch more short stories. I think there's like about 10 in all, and some of them were really good, 5 stars. Others were 3 stars. Not my favorite, not the worst things I've ever read. They were just either way too short to be 5 stars to me, or they just weren't really my thing. But there were a few in here that were definitely 5-star, S tier, kind of spooky, and so I ended up rating the whole collection itself 4 stars. I do know after reading reviews that a lot of people did not realize that this is a bind up of short stories, so I was not alone in that. So if this sounds at all interesting to you, just keep that in mind because it obviously upset some people. I didn't mind it so much once I got used to it, but it definitely threw me off a bit at first. Then I read The Grip of It by Jack Jemk, and I did really enjoy this one. It was pretty atmospheric and spooky, but it is a dual perspective that flips between the 2 main characters every like 2 pages, and that was a little much for me. It kind of took me out of the story a lot, so for that I docked it a star, so it ended up being 4 stars as well. Still really good. I just think that it could have been executed a little bit better to make it more suspenseful. The plot itself of this was very unique, and if you like more psychological horrors, you may really enjoy this one, as long as like the dual perspective business isn't a deal breaker for you. I know it probably would have been for me had I actually known about it going into this book, but other than that, it was really good, and it definitely lives up to the creepiness of the cover. And then the last thing that I read in the month of October is just this short story by Stephen King called The Mist. I know this one is a popular, I think, movie adaptation. I don't know, I've never seen it, but now I definitely want to. This was absolutely 5 stars. Not what I was expecting, and I'm not going to tell you at all what it actually is. I think this is one that is great to go into not really knowing what the plot is. I'm sure it would still be pretty enjoyable if you've seen the movie, but I have read that there are pretty big differences between the book and the movie. Like, they're pretty similar until a certain point, and then it kind of like forks off into its own 2 different things. But this one was 5 stars, lived right up to my expectations. I knew since it was King and it was short, it was probably going to pack a punch, and it definitely did. And I will for sure be reading this one again because it gave me the heebie-jeebies. Oh my goodness. But that is it for October for me. I, like I said, did not read very many books, only 4, which is still like a book a week. It's not anything to scoff at. It's just a lot less than I thought I was gonna end up reading. But what matters is that I had the most amazing time reading these books, honestly. I couldn't be happier with the autumn TBR that I chose this year. It's been pretty good, not a lot of duds. So here's to hoping that the rest of the year is gonna be like that. Let me know in the comments what you read in October and your ratings for those books. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of your week and happy reading.